A corrupt judge condemns an innocent black teenager to juvenile detention, shattering her future, despite having no solid proof of her guilt. In his courtroom, he wields absolute authority, passing judgment as if he were untouchable. But everything changes with one phone call. The moment her father picks up, the judge's smug confidence turns into pure panic, because this isn't just any father. He's the United States Attorney General. Now, the very man who thought he could silence and bury the truth realizes he's just made the worst mistake of his career. But how deep does his corruption run? And will a father's influence be enough to bring his daughter home before it's too late? This is a story of betrayal, resilience, and the unrelenting fight for justice. Before we dive in, let me know in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? The streetlights flickered, casting long, wavering shadows over the cracked pavement as Tiana Williams trudged home. Her feet ached from standing all evening at Millie's Diner, a place where the air was always thick with the scent of sizzling oil. Grease stains dotted her worn-out black work pants, and the smell of fries and grilled cheese clung to her like a second skin. As she reached into her pocket, her fingers brushed against crumpled bills and loose change, her earnings for the night. The metal coins clinked together softly as she counted them yet again. 78, 79, she whispered under her breath, her lips barely moving. After counting for the third time, she let out a sigh. $212. It was getting closer, but still not enough to cover the application fees for the dream colleges she had worked so hard to reach for. Just a few more shifts, she thought, determination pushing through her exhaustion. The air had cooled as the city settled into the quiet hum of late evening. Storefronts along Mason Street were dark now, their glass windows reflecting the occasional passing headlights. A stray newspaper tumbled across the sidewalk, carried by the whispering autumn wind. Tiana adjusted the straps of her heavy backpack, which held both her work uniform and the chemistry textbook she had squeezed in a few minutes to study during her break. The weight of it on her shoulders felt like armor, a reminder of the dreams she refused to let slip away. Then a glare of headlights caught the corner of her eye. Police cruiser. Her pulse quickened, but she kept walking, her steps steady. It's probably just a routine patrol, she told herself. Nothing unusual. But a tiny, nagging feeling at the back of her mind made her shoulders tense. The car lingered. Its engine rumbled low, like a predator waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Tiana tried to ignore it, focusing on the rhythm of her footsteps against the pavement. But when she crossed Harrison Avenue, the vehicle suddenly sped up, matching her pace. Her heartbeat pounded louder in her ears. Before she could fully process it, sharp sirens shattered the quiet night. Red and blue lights flashed wildly, illuminating the world in bursts of harsh color. The blinding beams turned familiar buildings into twisted shadows. Then came the voice. "Hands where we can see them." The command boomed from the cruiser's loudspeaker, sharp, demanding, final. "Get on the ground now." Panic locked Tiana's body in place. Her mind spun as reality warped into a nightmare. Two officers jumped out, weapons drawn. Her stomach dropped. She had done nothing wrong. Officer Reynolds, a stocky man with close-cropped gray hair and cold, lifeless eyes, grabbed her arm without hesitation, slamming her against the hood of the squad car. The impact knocked the breath from her lungs. The metal was hot against her cheek, despite the cool air. She gasped, trying to turn her head, but another officer, Carter, was already dumping out her backpack. Her entire world spilled onto the pavement. Her chemistry notes, her tip money, even the tiny cherry lip balm her little sister had given her for her birthday. It rolled away, disappearing into a storm drain with a final, cruel metallic clink. Tiana choked back a sob. I don't understand," she stammered, her voice trembling. "What did I do?" Officer Reynolds didn't hesitate. "Armed robbery. 3 blocks from here." His grip tightened, fingers digging into her skin. "You match the description." Tiana's head snapped up. "What?" Her breath hitched. No, I've been working. Ask Millie's. They'll tell you. I was there all night." Her voice cracked, raw with disbelief. But Reynolds didn't listen. He didn't care. His only response was slamming the cuffs onto her wrists. The cold metal bit into her skin. A small crowd had gathered now. Phones were raised. Murmurs spread through the bystanders like wildfire. Some whispered. Others just watched. No one stepped forward. No one stopped it. Tiana felt the fight drain from her limbs as she was shoved into the back of the cruiser. The door slammed shut behind her, the heavy thud echoing through her chest. Through the window, she watched her belongings disappear. Her open chemistry book lay abandoned on the street, pages fluttering in the wind, like broken wings. As the cruiser pulled away, the truth sank in. She was being taken away. And no one was listening. The fluorescent lights in the police station buzzed harshly, unforgiving. Tiana was marched forward, her shoulders aching from being restrained for so long. The air smelled of coffee and bleach, a scent that only made the reality of her situation worse. The booking officer barely looked up. "Name," he drawled. Her voice came out smaller than she wanted. "Tiana Williams." Reynolds shook her arm. "Louder." She swallowed hard. "Tiana Williams." A female officer appeared, snapping on gloves. Arms out. Legs apart. They searched her. Took everything. Her hoodie. Her tip money. Her house key. Her dignity. The camera flash blinded her. Left. Turn left. Left. Turn right. Left. Fingers were pressed into black ink. The officer stamped her prints onto a card. And then, finally, voice. A young man in a rumpled suit, clutching a manila folder. "Tiana Williams?" he asked, flipping through papers. "I'm Mr. Parker. Your public defender." Tiana barely had time to process the words before he kept talking. Charges, evidence, plea deals. But she only had one question. Would her father get her out before it was too late?